Hello, everyone. Welcome back to More Than You See, where Shelly and I have conversations with creatives about our mental health journeys. Please note, we're not licensed practitioners or therapists, but just actors and filmmakers experiencing our own creative mental health journeys and hoping that our experiences, our ups and downs, will resonate with you and hopefully make you feel a little less alone. I just kind of improv that a little bit, but hi, everyone. Welcome back to another little solo episode. This is basically like a fuck it episode, but I'm actually coming to you visually today. And I wanted to talk today about the fact that when the world seems so overwhelming and dark, I've had a lot of people reach out asking, how I'm doing as an empath, how I'm doing as a person who's showing up in the world and everything. We're just being bombarded by so much. And I wanted to remind everyone because, a lot of times we silo creatives. And that's honestly what this whole podcast is about, is like siloing creatives and being like, hi, you're a creative and therefore you think about the world in this specific way. And let's talk about that and let's share our feelings around that. But I want to remind you, dear listener, that you are also a creative and that everyone is feeling affected by what's going on in the world right now. So I hope that you are protecting your own mental health the way that you may be looking out for others who are more quote unquote creative. And I wanted to just come on here to share some potential journal prompts, to share some different, things that maybe you can go to bed tonight and think about, these questions that you could ask yourself and see if this helps clear some of that darkness a little bit. Because as I've talked on a podcast about before, there's always beauty and light beyond the darkness. But sometimes when we're so just ingrained in the shit, it's hard to break through that and it's hard to see through that into the other end. And I hope that these questions I'm going to ask will help you get through to the other side. The first thing I want to ask you is, how can you hold yourself and others, your community, when the world feels so divided? I think that the administration and so many people right now are leaning into fear mongering and to gossip and misinformation in order to prevent us from feeling united and prevent us from feeling like we have a community. And I want to remind you that that's not the case, that there's so much incredible community out there, and that by listening to and being in the space of others, we can remind ourselves about how we hold each other when we feel so divided. The other question I want to ask you is, in a moment when politics are heavy, how can we reclaim joy through storytelling? Now, this was a question that was asked to me in an acting group, and we're specifically talking about storytelling and being creative and what we're putting out in the world. But again, I think that everyone who listens to this is creative, because if you listen to this and you're like, what brings me joy? Planting flowers for myself and for my neighbors to enjoy. That is reclaiming joy. That is sharing joy amongst others. And so I would love for you to just think about something that brings you joy in this moment of turmoil in the world, and how you can bring joy through your own self-expression, through your own storytelling. And then I want to share just a few more questions that really relate to ourself and our identity, because I think that, again, when we're surrounded by so much noise, it's hard to pay attention to who we are and what we want and what is important to us, and to prioritize ourselves. I think it's really hard to prioritize ourselves when we are in the Groundhog Day rat race of the world. And it's by prioritizing ourselves, we are actually showing up for others. I think that sometimes it's really difficult to prioritize ourselves because we are in this culture where we are taught that we need to be of service to other people, our jobs, our families, and all of these things. And of course, we have responsibilities that we need to pay attention to and listen to. But I also think that when we prioritize ourselves, we're able to show up in a more full, colorful way for the people around us and for the world. And so I'm going to ask just a few questions, 3 questions that I would love for you to think about as a way to prioritize yourself and think about your identity and how you're showing up in the world right now. The first question is, when is the last time you felt truly free to be yourself? The second question is, what do you need the most right now? It's safe for you to voice it, whether that's space, whether that's a hug, whether that's money, whether that's a walk, whether that's an ice cream cake, whatever you need, voice it to yourself and say it out loud. And the final is like a 2-part question. What are you ready to let go of? And what are you ready to invite into your world? And I hope that these few questions that I have asked of you today will just help reflect on the fact that you yourself are a storyteller. You yourself are an important creative person in this world, and that your uniqueness and your storytelling and who you are as a person is important, and it's entirely unique and different than anyone else on the planet, and that is incredible. And it's important for us to all remember that and to use our voices to hold each other up and to get through these dark times, because I know that we will. And I hope that this is a good reminder that there is light at the end of all this darkness. Please be kind to yourself this week. I'm not even going to do my usual outros. I'm just going to remind you that there's a lot going on. So be kind to yourself and remember that you and everyone around you is more than you see. Thank you so much for listening to this little mini fucking episode, and I will see you next week.